I am obsessed with Scryfall.
It will unlock so much about cards.
Have you ever been sitting across from somebody and they play a card that is so perfect for their deck? You're like, how do I find those cards?
There's like 1 million cards in Magic. How do you just know all these things?
The internet, specifically a little website called Scryfall. What we're hoping to do today is just lower the barrier to entry so you feel confident using the site.
Even just learning a couple of the little tips will just open up the entire world of Magic cards. This episode is brought to you by MANDO, the whole-body deodorant that will keep you smelling fresh all day long. MANDO is powerful enough for the toughest body odor, but gentle enough to use everywhere. Plus, it's clinically proven to control body odor better than a shower with soap alone. Their starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid-stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, plus free shipping. New customers get $5 off a starter pack when they use code COMMAND at shopmando.com. Again, that's shopmando.com.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks, and today we have special guest Jordan Pridgen.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Jordan Pridgen.
Have you ever been sitting across from somebody in a game of Commander and they play a card that is so perfect for their deck that you have never seen in your entire life?
Oh, absolutely. It happens all the time.
You're like, how do I find those cards for my decks?
Yeah, and for the longest time, it's like, wow, there's like 1,000 million cards in Magic. How do you just know all these things?
The internet is the answer, specifically a little website called Scryfall. Today we are going to cover the ins and outs of Magic's most powerful card search database.
Yeah.
Jordan and I are frequent users of Scryfall. We're very good at using syntax and all the search functions, and we're going to try and get you up to snuff on the basics and then teach you some of the cool, like more basic syntax. But before we get into that, we're going to be looking at a lot of cards today. Digital cards, of course. If you want to pick up real cards, paper cards, go to cardkingdom.com/command. Card Kingdom has a huge selection of Magic cards, singles and sealed product, whatever you're looking for. If you're learning to use Scryfall from this very episode and you find cards that you're like, I need this right away for this deck, you can get a lot of those cards all in one place on Card Kingdom. And that's why I really like shopping there, is because I know that when I'm buying a huge amount of cards, I can get a giant chunk of them all in one place, and I'm not paying shipping over and over and over again. Plus, I know that they're going to be shipped with care, and they're going to arrive on my doorstep in the condition that I paid for, which is a big pet peeve of mine. When I pay for something and it gets shoved in my mailbox and you're like, it's bent or something.
And you're not going to be chasing down envelopes for like a month.
You're like, I swear I ordered this.
Did I get that one?
Cardkingdom.com/command. You can also support the show by using our other affiliate link over at ULTRAPRO.com/command. ULTRAPRO has a huge selection of Magic accessories. They've got dice and playmats, deck boxes, binders, card sorters. There's tons of accessories that it takes to be a Magic player these days. You got to have, like, keep your cards safe in a box, safe in the deck, safe on the table.
Yeah, a shoebox and a rubber band ain't going to cut it anymore.
That's not it. That's not it. Magic cards are expensive, so you want to make sure that you are storing them well. You're putting them in sleeves that's going to keep them safe when you're shuffling them up. Plus, you can make them look super cool because ULTRAPRO has the officially licensed Magic art. So all of the stuff that you know and love from Magic cards could be available on ULTRAPRO. Keep an eye on their website. Sometimes old designs go on sale or a new set drops. If you're excited about something, keep an eye out because they're going to have a ton of the products, and the cool ones do tend to sell out fast. If you want to stay on the up and up, join their newsletter. They'll let you know about any flash sales that are happening, sometimes up to 40% off. If you're a big brewer and you've got a bunch of decks on your table that you want to put into deck boxes, buying them all in one place when they're on sale is a great way to do it. Again, ultrapro.com/command. Finally, you can support us directly over at patreon.com/commandzone. All of our patrons get access to extra turns and game nights a day early without ads. That's pretty sweet. Some of them get access to exclusive content like Turn Talk. That's just a discussion we have after a game of extra turns about, what would have happened if we drawn one more card. If you hadn't won on my turn, I was going to win on my, here's what I had in my hand. It's just a fun conversation about people that just got off of an exciting game.
You get to look into people's minds a little bit,
Yeah, I really like Turn Talk. I like doing them, and it's cool to get feedback to like react to how a game went and have other people understand the context of like why you made a play that you did.
Because it's also like in any Commander game, sitting with it afterwards would be like, oh, what about that game? Oh, I was going to do this. That's like such a big part of it that kind of has to get cut out of some gameplay versions. But.
Become a patron and you get a peek behind the curtain. Plus, we shout out one lucky patron every single podcast episode, and this one is dedicated to Steph Vandepol. Steph, you rock.
You rock.
All right, let's get into it. We are talking about how to use Scryfall today. I am obsessed with Scryfall.
Oh, I like, so if I boot up my computer and open Chrome, I open my email, my notes document, and a Scryfall tab.
Just always.
Just so I'm like, I'm gonna need Scryfall.
I swear, at any given time, I have like 5 or 6 tabs of Scryfall open at any given time. And if you're familiar with Scryfall, you're probably familiar with its big purple homepage that says Scryfall is a powerful Magic the Gathering card search. And powerful it is. But
so good.
I know when you look at this page, you're like, oh, there's got to be some secrets to this because it looks so intimidating. It's the Google of Magic cards.
Yes.
But next to online deck builders like ARCHIDEKT, Scryfall is the most important online deck building tool.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I go to build a deck, Scryfall is literally the first thing I go to.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine going anywhere else to like get started on a deck.
It's exactly what I do when I see a commander where I'm like, ooh, what goes in that deck? You go in and you automatically put in a Scryfall search.
Scryfall.
So today we're going to go through the basics and try and get you started on your Scryfall journey. If it's intimidating, and a lot of the stuff that we're going to cover today, I'm hoping it's not super overwhelming, but I want to say up front that this is a process. Learning how to use Scryfall is literally starting with a couple of keywords or starting with no keywords and starting with the advanced search and then learning the site as you go. What we're hoping to do today is just lower the barrier to entry so you feel confident using the site.
Yeah, and I mean, I know when I first started using Scryfall, it was mostly just like basically as a way to check the Oracle text on cards. I would just type in the name of a card and get whatever the text was on the thing. But even just learning a couple of the little tips and tricks and ways to like look in different things and being a little more familiar with that will just open up the entire world of Magic cards.
So this search engine defaults to searching by card name. You can use keywords and you can use expressions, which we're going to get into later, but it defaults to just searching for a card, like Mazavith. And it'll give you a card page that has a lot of different information on it. Like Jordan said, it has the Oracle text on it, which if you're looking at like an older version of Mazavith.
Yeah, if you go down to this like first one,
you'll see that it doesn't match what's on the actual card and what's the card text here. So that'll give you the exact updated rules text of any given card. On the side, it has a list of all of the different printings of Mazavith. There's a ton of great reprints. There's a ton of different arts. It even has the digital versions of it. You can see all of the prints in one place by clicking View All Prints. It also has the legality, all of the formats that you can play it in. The big one, of course, that you're going to care about is Commander, where it's legal. It'll tell you the artist. It'll tell you all of the different languages it's available in. There's a lot of information just on the top. We also want to draw a little bit of attention to the toolbox down here, which has a couple of different links.
Yeah, and I kind of ignored these for a long time, but there's some useful stuff down here.
I agree. I sort of skipped over these button they glazed over, but if there's a card that you're particularly interested in or you want to know what kind of cards it's good with, this is actually a really good resource. You can look at articles that feature this card. You can look at decks that feature this card. You can look at, Moxfield decks or MTG Top 8 decks, and it'll tell you all of like a huge history of where you can find Maze of Ith. My favorite one in this is the card analysis on EDHREC is also a really good one. It takes you right to the Maze of Ith EDHREC page.
Well, because, we're usually looking for it for your Commander.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of info that you can get to right there.
Or you open it on the Scryfall Tagger. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the episode. It is a really powerful tool.
Yeah. The Scryfall Tagger is like a hack. We'll tell you about it later. Like, it will unlock so much about cards.
Finally,
so stay tuned.
This has the notes and rules information for whatever card, and it has a lot of the similar text. I'm pretty sure it's the same as Gatherer.
I think it might be pulled from Gatherer. I'm not 100% sure, but it's usually the same stuff.
Where it exactly sources from, but it'll give you a date of the ruling, and it'll give you the text of the ruling. So if there's something confusing about a card, you can go check it out on Scryfall and learn all about it. So there's a lot of information on an individual card page, but I think you and I would both agree that the most powerful thing about Scryfall is its search functionalities.
Yeah, you want to be able to find like a series of cards that fit in some particular category. And it's got a very simple way to do that, even if you don't know any of the tricks, which is the advanced search.
Yeah, so you can get to this page by the top right-hand corner, or on the purple page it says Advanced Search as well. And this just gives you a bunch of different ways that you can search for cards. This isn't all of them. This isn't an exhaustive list of the different ways that you can search, but it is the most popular and the most useful ones, I think, for new Scryfall users.
Well, and it's worth pointing out, and we'll go into some of the specifics later, is a lot of the things that are covered on this, you can just sort of type into the bar and make it work. But the advanced search does a lot of that work for you and makes it very clear. So if you are at all uncomfortable with using any of the other stuff, advanced search will get you 90% of the way almost all the time.
And I don't even use all of the search functions on the advanced search page. So we're just going to go through the ones that Jordan and I think are the most important, or the ones that we use the most. So we're going to use an example of, let's just say we're building a Felix 5 Boots deck.
Yep.
It's going to give you a lot of the information that we're going with today. We're going to start with this text box. So this is Oracle text. This is the rules text on any given card. It's also a pretty tricky box to use. Like in a Felix 5 Boots deck, you're searching for combat damage.
Yeah. And I'd say this is like the box I use the most, but the trick and the thing that makes this kind of hard is that like it can be very specific about like the way things are worded and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you need to kind of know the syntax that they use on cards to make this really work.
And they explain it below. It says enter text that should appear in the rules box. You can use the tilde as a placeholder for the card name, and word order doesn't matter. So if you go in here and you just search for deals combat damage, that's going to search for all cards that have the word deals, combat, and damage on them anywhere in any order.
Yep.
If you want to search for cards that specifically say deals combat damage, you can put it in quotes. And this will search for cards that have exactly the text deals combat damage.
Which is probably what you're looking for if you're doing this Felix 5 boot search.
Yeah, so that if you put quotes around any text that you want in that exact order to appear in the rules text, that allows you to search for phrases. So you can search for individual words like combat damage, or you can search for phrases like deals combat damage. And like it mentions, you can use this little squiggly line to search for cards that reference their names. So you could search whenever this card deals combat damage. So this will search for cards that specifically trigger when they deal combat damage. That just refers to the card name. It can be replaced by whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So that's going to get you a huge amount of the way, but it's also going to give you a lot of extraneous cards in colors that you don't care about, cards in types that you don't care about. And luckily, Scryfall helps us get a lot more specific.
Yeah, because I mean, that's going to find every white card
Everything.
that deals combat damage, and that's not going to be useful for your Felix 5 boots deck.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is type line. This can be super type. It can be card type. It can be subtypes. So
Literally anything that shows up on the type line in the middle of the card can be searched for here.
Yeah, and it gives you a huge drop down that gives you all of the options, so you don't even have to know them off the top of your head. But let's say you're looking for a legendary creature. You can add a little drop down that says legendary. You could, let's say you're building a Felix 5 Boots ooze deck, and you want oozes that are legendary.
Yeah, you want the flavor to be in there. You want them to have 5 ooze friends.
5 ooze friends. But okay, let's say you're doing a clone version of Felix 5 Boots and you don't want them to be legendary.
Sure.
You can click on the is and it'll automatically switch it to not. So now you can search for oozes that aren't legendary. Pretty sweet. You can
regular run-of-the-mill oozes.
I have a friend that has an equipment-based Felix 5 Boots deck.
Uh-huh.
So you can even search by equipment or by not equipment. Basically, this can be any combination of types that you do or do not want. The next section is colors. This is where things get a little bit hairy.
And this is an important one to understand. This definitely confused me at first when I started using it for Commander stuff.
So there's 2 sections here that have the colors listed. There's colors and there's commander. The colors section refers to specifically the card color. So when you check any of these boxes, let's say we check blue, black, green, it's going to search for cards that are blue and black and green. You can change that by changing this drop down to including these colors or at most these colors, and that'll sort of vary how it searches, but it's referring to the actual card color.
Yep.
And most of the time, it'll allow you to go higher than that. Mm-hmm. So if you search for like color blue and black, it's going to get cards that are blue and black, but could include green or red.
And for Commander players, it's worth noting that, like, for instance, if you do just green cards, you will find Noble Hierarch. For instance, even though it makes mana of other colors. Like, this color thing doesn't care about the commander rules of, it can't have the symbols doing stuff on it.
Right. For that reason, I think we use the commander section a lot more. This will search by color identity rather than color itself. And it automatically searches for anything less than those colors.
Yeah, that falls within that. So if you did 5 colors, it's going to find pretty much every card.
Yeah. I mean, if you click Felix 5 Boots, we have a Sultai commander, so we click blue, black, and green. It's going to search for all cards that fit into the Sultai color identity. So anything blue or black or blue-black or black-green or colorless.
Blue that produces red or something like... I mean, not red. Blue that produces black. Yeah, I'm saying one of the one colors. This isn't in there. Great.
So this is the one that you're going to use most of the time, unless you're looking for cards that are of a specific color. Maybe you have a commander that only cares about green spells. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but
but they exist.
Maybe.
Almost for sure.
The next, we're going to skip over mana cost, but the next one that I like to talk about is the stats section. This can do a lot of work. It defaults to mana value equal to, and that's great for whenever you're searching for a card that you care about its mana value. So if you're looking for 4 drops, you can search for mana value equal to 4. You can also search for mana value less than or equal to 4.
Yeah, I know, like when I was making my Yoshimaru Rogrek deck, I wanted to be really low to the ground, so the first thing I did was anything less than 3 to put into it.
Yeah,
it's a great way to start.
If you're building a Felix 5 Boots deck, you really want a creature that comes down before Felix does. Yep. So you can search for creatures that are less than or equal to probably 4, honestly. Then you can play them before your commander comes down and get some value the very turn that you cast him. This section also includes power, toughness, and loyalty. So you can search for cards with power equal to 2. or equal to 1, like if you're doing the ninja lady.
Yeah, Yuriko, right?
No, that's
Whatever.
not the one I mean. That lets things be unblockable
Things that are
if they have
unblockable
power.
and they have 1. See, this is why I need Scryfall, because I don't necessarily remember the name, but I do remember some of that Oracle text.
I could tell you exactly how to search for it, but I could not tell you the name off the top of my head.
Another good commander that you played on game nights would be a great example here is like Pride of Hullclade. So you could like look for something with toughness greater than
5.
Yeah, and then mana value less than 3. Bam.
I mean, all of those are really helpful when you're looking for specific cards to fill a hole in your curve, which is how I use Scryfall a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So stats is really flexible. This is basically just searches any of the numbers on your card, any of the traditional numbers anyway. Before we go too far, I do want to mention this formats section. If you want to make sure that you're filtering out anything that you couldn't play legally in your deck, you can throw in legal commander. Most of the time, doesn't make a huge difference, but sometimes it'll really limit the things that it spits out.
There are some stuff that will show up that will just kind of muddy your search if you don't hit legal commander sometime if you're looking for it. So
yeah,
it just makes it a little cleaner.
The sets section does exactly what you think it is. It helps you search for set or block. So if you're looking for new cards for your Felix 5 Boots deck, you start in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Or you could enter a block name. Maybe you're doing like a Lorwyn themed deck. You can search in the Lorwyn block, and that'll give you everything from Lorwyn, Shadowmoor, or the other one, Eventide.
I think was the other one.
I think that's right.
If I'm wrong, edit it out.
So I don't use the block function as much because they haven't been relevant lately, but it is worth noting that you can search the Outlaws of Thunder Junction block, and this includes the big score and the breaking news cards, which is pretty sweet.
Now, what it doesn't feature, and this is like a good little caveat to think about, especially with like recent sets, is it doesn't feature stuff from the Commander product.
Yes, that is a separate... that is not within the block.
As an example of a card I wouldn't find, Felix 5 Boots
himself.
So just, keep that in mind because they all kind of come out at the same time. And now that Commander decks are so like tied in with the theme of the actual sets they come out in, that could be kind of confusing.
I really like this function for searching for sets that you just didn't pay that much attention to. So if you're like, all right, I didn't really look at Fallout, but I want to see if there's any cool cards from Fallout that fit my deck, you can search just in the Fallout set and make sure you didn't miss anything important. Okay. The next one is probably my favorite section.
Yeah, because this does so much.
So this is criteria, and it's going to give you a huge drop down of all of the things that it searches for automatically. You can see that you can search for cards that are bears, so they have base power and toughness too. You can search for color shifted cards or commanders. You can search for cards with ETBs or etched cards.
Creature lands, companions.
I mean, like first printing, there's a huge amount of criteria that you can use if you're searching for a specific kind of card or if you have a themed card. Hybrid mana is a cool one. I used the hybrid mana search when I was building my mono black, green black deck. See if I could catch anything a little bit sneaky.
One we mentioned in here that I like to use all the time that's really useful is first print.
Yeah.
Or not reprint, you can also set it to. They're basically the same thing.
Yeah, I use this all the time, especially if you're doing the thing that we mentioned before, if you're looking at all the cards from Fallout, for example, and you're just like, don't show me any of the reprints.
No, I want these new cards that are part of it, or I want cards that were printed in Thunder Junction that I've never seen before, to see if they're going to be a good fit for my deck.
Especially if you're looking at Commander product, I found this is really useful. So you can go to like Murders at Karlov Manor, get rid of all of the reprints, and that'll show you just the cards that were printed specifically for MKM Commander decks.
Yeah, and not reprint and is first print will generally give you the same sort of thing in that. But if you also are searching for a wider thing, like you're looking at some old cards, if you do the is first print thing, it'll also just show you like the art and the version of the card that came out first, which I like a lot.
Me too.
Because I'm like, oh yeah, that's the original Hypnotic Spectre, not a crazy reprint that they did later.
They've also been using this to sort of help you find new keyworded stuff. Like you can search for is outlaw. Like you can search in this criteria for cards that meet the qualification of outlaw.
Oh yeah, and all the like batching stuff they've been doing, like outlaw
really
and party.
You can search for cards that have adventures on them. There's other ways to do this, but the fact that it's all in here and keyworded makes it so easy to be like, I'm looking for all of the stuff that has a borderless version of it.
The amount of work that has clearly gone into cataloging all this stuff in Scryfall is insane. Like, it really has everything you need when you're looking for specifics in cards.
Let's do a quick example before we move on here, because we've only shown you ways to like use one of all these boxes at a time, but really what you're going to be doing is combining a bunch of different terms into one.
Yep.
So let's say we're looking for 1 mana instants or sorceries that draw cards for like a Niv Mizzet deck.
Yeah, we're trying to find all the cantrips that we need.
Okay, so you're searching for stuff that says draw in the text box.
Yep. It wants to be on the card somewhere.
You're looking for instants. You're also looking for sorceries. I'm going to click this box that says allow partial type matches. That means it's going to search for instants or sorceries.
Instead of being like, we're looking for an instant sorcery and saying nothing. You get nothing. Good day, sir.
I'm going to click this box that says commander. So your commander is blue and red. So it's only going to give us stuff that can fit in a Niv Mizzet deck. And we're going to say mana value equal to 1. So that's going to give us all of the cheapest things. We can even change, where's my legality here?
Down there. Legal commander.
That's it. We're going to limit anything that doesn't need to be in this.
Yeah, so it won't get us ancestral recall or...
Yeah.
Which would probably be right at the top of the thing.
Probably pretty good. All right, so this gives us a search of 68 cards that all meet our qualifications. And some of these are going to be on the EDH rec page for Niv, but some of them aren't going to be. Like maybe Burning Inquiry doesn't quite make the list every time, even though it's really good.
Well, and I think one thing that's easy to sort of forget is that, you know, EDH rec, like if you were looking at that to like find the stuff, a lot of times people went to EDH rec and built their decks off of that. So it can sort of be, you know, a feedback loop of the cards that get played in it.
Prophecy, yeah.
So you'd be shocked at how often by doing a search on Scryfall you find stuff that are great fits that just didn't quite make that top synergy list.
Absolutely. And when you're building with a more specific theme or you're building with a more specific idea, sometimes EDH rec doesn't give you what you're looking for. So being able to do this search on your own and give you all of the options without being totally overwhelming numbers, like 68 is a perfectly reasonable number of cards to look at.
Yeah. Well, and it's also great too, like, you know, spoiler season comes around and they drop the newest cool legend and you want to immediately start brewing on that.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be up on EDH rec yet or something like that. So, you know, knowing how to do this stuff can get you ahead of the curve. You can be the one who's determining what shows up on the high synergy cards.
You are going to be on the cutting edge of deck building.
Imagine that power.
Let's do another example before we move on.
Yep.
Let's say we're looking for creatures with attack triggers that have power less than or equal to 2 for a red, green, and white Sidar Kondo of Jamura deck. So you want creatures that have attack triggers. So if you do whenever this card attacks, we want creatures. Our commander has a red partner, is filling in that red pip here.
And remember again that the whenever this card attacks should be in parentheses, because otherwise it's just going to look for cards that say whenever, mention their own name, and attacks at some point, which might get you what you want, but is going to be a little...
It's going to give you more answers than you really want.
You'll be surprised how often you'll be like, that's kind of what I want, and then you'll see a card where it says like, whenever this happens, do a thing. This card can't be blocked by blah, blah. And then, you know, whenever an opponent attacks, blah, and you'll be like, I did all the things, but not in the order I wanted them to be.
Okay, I think we have this search right. We've got whenever it attacks, we're searching for red, green, and white with power less than or equal to 2, and it's legal in Commander.
Perfect.
Search for those. Here we go. We've got 230 cards here. That's kind of a lot to go through, but, it narrows it down from the thousands that could possibly be in the deck.
Yeah.
So I want to show you some ways to narrow this down further, starting because there are some good tools like right here on the results page.
Yeah, and you can sometimes immediately look and be like, oh, ace. Maybe ace is good, but why is ace the top one that showed up there?
It's because it starts with A.
Yes.
There's a lot of tools on the results page. I want to draw your attention to this first. When you use the advanced search function, it gives you all of the syntax in the syntax bar. Mm-hmm. So I think it's great when you do a search to look at this and just see what the site printed out for you. And then you can change things to be like, okay, maybe I don't want attack triggers. Maybe I want deals combat damage. And you can change it right here in the search bar without re-entering all of this stuff into the advanced search. It also helps you learn syntax as you go.
Yeah. It's also just like way more convenient than having to go back to the advanced search page.
Click on red and green and white.
When it's 90% there and you realized you're like, you know what? I actually don't want any more white cards in this deck. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not running enough white to justify it or something.
Maybe I'm changing the partner. Maybe I'm changing it to a blue partner.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so much easier to just be like, delete, add in a new thing, and it can kind of just immediately get the new search for you.
The sorted by tool is what we were alluding to before.
Yes.
Scryfall defaults to sorting things alphabetically, which is great if you want to go through every single one of those cards. But if you only want to see the most played ones, you can sort these by EDH rec rank, and it will give you the most common ones right away. So we look at this and we're like, wow, Krenko does seem pretty good. He gets kind of bigger, so he gets out of the scale of our commander, but it gives you a lot more tools, like Goblin Rabblemaster or Kari Zev gives you 2 options.
Yeah, like, this just shows you like what people are playing in Commander, and which is likely to, already be what you're looking for. I will say sometimes when I have like a really specific thing that I'm looking for and I do the sort by EDH rec rank, I'll change the direction and I want to see the lowest ones on EDH rec rank.
I want to see the ones that nobody uses. Exactly. You can change it to descending and it'll give you nobody's playing Skyline Scout.
But every now and then you'll look at that one that's at the very bottom and you go, well, in my deck, this is going to be gangbusters.
You can also sort by a lot of things. You can sort by price, by US dollar, if you're in the US. This will give you the most expensive ones first. Let's look at the cheapest ones. There we go. So these are if you're building a budget deck. It'll give you some cheaper options that may be perfect without spending any extra money. I also like to sort by release date is a big one that I use. And this one will give you all of the recent cards.
This is great for like what you were saying where you're updating a deck and you want to see stuff that was from the last couple sets that could add a fresh take to it that you haven't looked at before.
Exactly. You already have this deck. You're trying to add everything from Thunder Junction and Murders of Karlov Manor. I also like to get rid of all of the reprints because it will give you the reprints that are printed at that time. And this will just give you all of the new cards. So Kate, Caged Brawler, isn't necessarily one we'd think of, but here she is on this search. Okay, so that's the basics of using the advanced search and what you can do just by like the first time you log into Scryfall.
Yeah, and that'll get you really far. That can do a lot of stuff to help you just find new things for your deck that aren't just based off what other people are building. They're based off the ideas that you have, which can be really cool.
Yeah, I use this tool for a really long time, and it just helps you get your bearings on the site and start to learn what you can search for and what you start to look for. And honestly, when you put in searches like this, sometimes you find cards that you didn't expect to see that you're like, oh, this is actually great for another one of my decks. So it just helps you narrow things down and get a bearing on the thousands of cards that exist. I think when people ask like how I know the amount of cards that I know, even though I've only been playing since like 2017 or something, and I know all these old cards. It's because of Scryfall. It's because of the amount of time I've spent on this site just doing searches and building decks from scratch.
Yeah, you really, really start to build your familiarity with the pool of Magic cards that are there. Because whenever you're searching for cards to, be trying to find some board wipes for my new deck or something, you'll start recognizing the same cards that are showing up there and the little niches that they fit into. And it's really nice.
If you're sold on Scryfall, I recommend that you make an account. If you go into your accounts page, so here's mine, you can change the filter options immediately. So it says it automatically includes arena only cards. We're never playing on arena when I'm doing this kind of searching. So I'm just going to turn off both MTGO cards and arena only cards. So I'm only getting cards that show up in paper. This says include funny cards. This would be your silver bordered cards. If I'm building legally, I probably don't need those to show up either. And I don't want tokens, planes, or even vanguards to show up while I'm searching. Then you can save these search options and it'll sort that way all the time. Like I usually have mine set to EDHREC rank as well. So when I search for something, it automatically shows me the most commonly played cards in Commander.
Just saves you a couple clicks when you get to the actual search result.
You're like, most of the time I don't need to search for these alphabetically. I don't have an A-themed deck. So EDHREC rank is just more useful to me long term. Those are the basics of the site. That's how you used the advanced search tool. We're going to get into how to use syntax to really speed up this process and give you the exact, how we search for cards naturally without even having to use advanced search. We're going to get to that, and we're going to tell you all about how to use Scryfall tags, which are so helpful.
Amazing.
After a few words from our sponsors.
All right, fight fans, can you smell what Kamal Pitfighter is cooking? Damn right you can't, because I KO'd BO with MANDO. The whole body deodorant that lasts all day, so that I can spend more time fighting in pits and less time fighting my pits. MANDO doesn't just mask odor with an even stronger smell, it grabs odor-causing bacteria in a chokehold. It's the perfect tag team partner for any activity, like a long day at your local game store where you don't want to contribute to the hurtful negative stereotype of smelly Magic players. Anyway, MANDO is clinically proven to block odor for 72 hours, so I can knock my opponents out with my tap ability instead of my stench. As long as they're down to 3 life, that is. MANDO!
MANDO Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. Luckily, we have a discount code to get you hooked on our favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code COMMAND at shopmando.com, SHOPMANDO.com. Again, that's code COMMAND at shopmando.com.
Ah, a truth seeker. I am Mirko. Some call me the obsessive theorist. Me? Obsessive? After years of being ripped off by overpriced wireless providers, I am not obsessive. I am merely vigilant. That's why when Mint Mobile seemed like an unbelievably good deal, I investigated. What I discovered was shocking. You see, there is no catch. By foregoing the cost of retail, they can truly provide 3-month plans starting at only $15 a month. Astonishing. No more unexpected overage fees, no jaw-dropping monthly bills, just glorious high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. With that mystery solved, I can focus on my true obsession, Game of Thrones theories. The show ending just can't be canon.
To get this new customer offer on your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/command. That's mintmobile.com/command. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/command. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. You browsing for some new tech?
Yeah, I'm building T-Mount and ARCHIDEKT. Ooh, how about Zergo and Ojutai?
Did you just drag and drop that card image directly into your deck?
Yep, with ARCHIDEKT, you can drag and drop card images from EDHREC or Scryfall directly into the deck list. No typing required.
That is so cool.
Ooh, okay, check this out. I'm gonna drag and drop Dragon Storm into the deck, and then boom, I'm gonna drop a bunch of dragons on the battlefield.
A 9-drop, huh? Seems ambitious.
It was just for the pun. ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest Commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/commandzone.
Welcome back, everybody.
We missed you.
We did. We hope you enjoyed the ads.
Yeah, I really hope you did. Because
Yeah,
I
that's
probably
your
made
job.
them.
We're talking about Scryfall today. Speaking of which, this is not an ad. We just love Scryfall.
Yeah.
They haven't offered us anything for this.
We did reach out to them, and they sent us a couple of long emails with like some
Really
good
helpful
tips
tools.
and tricks
Yeah.
and stuff. So thank you, Scryfall.
They're the best. So the advanced search is a really great place to start if you've never used Scryfall before. But that page is sort of it's on easy mode.
Yeah, it handles everything for you, and it keeps you safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like training wheels.
Yeah. It's It just makes sure that you know the capabilities of the site and you feel confident in your own capabilities to use it. But if you want to take off those training wheels and you want to ride a big boy bike,
Yes.
Then you start to learn syntax.
This is the deep end, everybody.
This is the deep end. So this is what you can search in this search for magic cards bar, other than just the names of magic cards. You can search for little expressions and then follow it up by shorter search terms, and you don't even have to go to the advanced page at all.
I never go to the advanced page anymore.
No, I don't either. We're going to cover a lot of this today. We're going to cover the stuff that we use the most. But if you really want to just get started with syntax right away, there is a great page on the Scryfall website. If you just click on syntax in the top right corner, it'll take you to a Scryfall search reference page that has a ton of different search expressions, color and identity, card types, card text, mana costs. It goes so deep. You can search for extra cards. You can search by rarity, all of the things that are on the advanced page, but also you can search by cubes. It gives you a ton of different options. Actually knowing all of the different search options on Scryfall is impossible.
Oh, it's insane. There's no way you can actually know it all.
Like every single time I open this website, I learn some weird trick. We learned tricks making this episode.
Oh, yeah. We were both like sharing once, being like, we can do that. Oh, I'm going to
Cool.
use that.
I never do that. That's so smart.
But I feel like we should put because we're talking about how complicated it is and how much there's going on here.
Yeah.
It's way less intimidating than it sounds. Like, you don't need to
yes.
know all this stuff.
No. You're not going to know all of it. All you need to know is some little ones, and we're going to teach you those. And you already know the terms for most of these things anyway. So don't worry about memorizing it. Just learn as you go, and we'll give you a couple of great shortcuts that we use to get started.
Yeah.
So a note on syntax before we get into it. If you've never used like search syntax in other more capable sites, anytime that there's a space between a search term, it considers it a new term. So normally when you're using a colon, you would write like note, space, and then write the note.
Yeah, if you're writing it on a document for, a stranger to read. Mm-hmm. But when you're putting in a search term, if you do, Oracle, space, draw a card, it's going to assume you're searching for nothing.
Yeah, it'll freak out and tell you it doesn't know what you want. Or it'll search for the word, or it'll search for Oracle, draw a card in card names.
Yes.
Which isn't exactly what you want. So anytime you're using it, you have no space between the colon and your search term. You have Oracle, draw.
Yep, and just like when we use the text box in the advanced search, if you're going to say draw a card, you need to put parentheses around those, or it'll assume that those spaces are different search terms. Yeah, quotations. Yes, that's what I meant. Not parentheses. You can use parentheses, but for different things.
We'll get into that.
Quotations.
The first thing we're going to talk about is color, because that's pretty simple, and that's a great one that you're going to use. So there's two different search terms like there is in the advanced search. There's color or C. Both of those will search for the same thing. You can search by using the abbreviations for colors, like the WUBERG.
Just the single letters. White, blue, red, green, black.
Yeah, you
I
got
did it in the wrong order.
That was all 5. You went rogue.
but I dropped one.
You can also search C for colorless. Or you can search by the names of guilds and wedges.
Which is actually how I do it, like most of the time.
I use Wooburg, which is funny. So if you're searching for cards that are like Dimir, for example, we're looking for cards that are the colors blue and black. You could search color UB, and that'll give you all of the cards that are blue and black. You'll notice some of them are red, some of them are white, some of them are green, but they're all blue and black.
At least blue and black.
You could also search color Dimir, and that'll give you the exact same search. If you want to use the shorthand instead of using color, it's just C. C:\Dimir or C:\UB if you want to use
the same thing.
As few letters as possible.
Yeah, you're trying to get your search per minute up. This is a great way to do it.
So that'll give you all of the cards that contain that color. If you're looking for cards that are exactly blue and black.
Yeah, like we don't want friggin' Admiral Beckett Brass here.
We're looking for blue-black cards for our blue-black deck.
Jeez, Grixis.
You change the colon to an equal sign, and that will give you stuff that is exactly the color blue and black. So all of these cards that are available are exactly blue and black. Aetherblade Agent looks weird, but it's black on the front.
See, flip
blue
it.
on the black.
That one's tricky.
Blue on the back.
I saw that at the top, and
Nope.
for a moment I was like, did we mess up? And I'm
Nope.
like, no, we
No,
didn't.
we didn't. Scryfall just knows better. So those will give you can also do color equals. But anytime you add equals instead of a colon, it just means exactly this. Don't be cute, Scryfall. Actually, I like it when it's cute.
But again, because this goes back to the color versus commander one that we did earlier.
Yeah.
Like color is not commander coded. Like it's not color identity. It's just the colors the actual cards make.
Right.
If you want to do the commander one.
There's a different tag for that.
Yeah.
It's identity. So this is, you can search by either the word identity : or you can search for ID : You could also use CI : which means color identity.
Commander : works too.
Commander : works as well. There's a lot of different things.
This is the fun part about Scryfall. You can pick which of these little modes you like.
You can never be wrong.
Do it your way.
So if you want to search for a card for your blue and black commander deck, you can search ID : UB. You could search identity UB. You could search for ICI UB. You can also use the color search here as well. So you could search for ID : Dimir, and that'll give you all of the cards with the color identity Dimir or less.
Yeah, and clearly this hasn't held on to the commander legal thing.
No.
Because the very top one is a silver bordered card, which just shows you how important it is to...
Yeah, you can always add in legal commander, and that'll limit to just commander legal cards.
Bam, there you go.
Again, we're searching by name automatically here, so we can switch that to EDHREC. And there you go.
Yeah, you'll find a lot if you're using color identity and you sort by EDHREC rank, Sol Ring will be the top option. A lot of the time.
I did want to mention that you could use equals here as well. If you're looking for stuff with exactly the color identity Dimir, this is different from cards with exactly color Dimir because it includes lands, it includes like talismans and that kind of thing, which have a blue-black identity, but aren't the colors blue and black.
Yeah, lands are a really useful thing to be able to look at with the color identity because the majority of lands don't have a color, but that's not useful to you if you're trying to find ones for your deck.
I wanted to mention you don't have to search by actual color either. You could search by numbers of colors, which I learned fairly recently. So you could search color 2, and that'll give you all of the cards that are legal in Commander that have 2 colors.
So if you're making like Niv Mizzet Reborn, is that the one that he wants all 2 color cards in the deck?
He cares about cards that are 2 colors. There's also like a threefold signal, which cares about cards that are 3 colors.
Yeah.
So you can search on Scryfall for that and limit it by maybe you're building a 3-color threefold signal deck, you brave soul. You can add in a color identity. So what if we're doing Teamer, which is red, blue, green, and there it is. So this is all the 3-color Teamer cards.
It's when you really want those pips in there, you know?
Yeah, when you have a very specific deck in mind. Something I learned while we were doing research for this is you could also do C:M. And that'll give you everything, all of the multicolored cards.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
That would be great, if you're building the 4-color Aragorn that cares about all different colors, and you're like, I want to get as many of these cards to hit multiple things as possible.
Absolutely. And these are only going to give you the gold border ones because it is not color identity. If you search color CI:M, gives you everything with a multicolored color identity. So I would think that is honestly the most useful syntax that you can learn.
The very first thing I do, if I saw Felix 5 boots, would just be type in ID and then bug.
Yeah. Or ID soul tie.
Because I just know that that's what I'm going to be searching for. I don't want anything that's outside of that. And then every other search, I'll just build off of that one.
And I use CI as my color identity search, but you could use identity, you could use ID. Any of those work just fine, and you just pick one and that's your lane. If it's easier for you to remember the full text of it, like searching color : then just do that. It's not going to save you all that much time. And you're probably not doing hundreds of Scryfall searches a day like we are for work.
Yes. This is our job, people.
The next one we want to talk about is type. So this is fairly easy. It's just TYPE:. You could also search T:.
Super simple.
And it's as simple as you want it to be. If you're looking for a legendary merfolk, you put in T:merfolk.
Look at all those options.
Legendary. And it'll give you all of the legendary merfolk in existence. This is where or comes in the most.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about it here. Especially if you're looking for instants or sorceries.
Right.
If you're building some kind of spellslinger deck, you want to include all of the spells. And the way to do that, well, one of the ways to do that is by doing type instant or type sorcery.
And then bam, you'll get every instant or sorcery.
Yeah, 6,484 cards.
There's a whole bunch.
And that's not exactly something that we're going to go through. So naturally, you would want to include, let's say we're building that Niv Mizzet deck, and we add CIUR. Uh-oh.
What went wrong?
Things look weird because it looks like you'd be searching for type instant or type sorcery with the color identity blue and red. But when you add or into a syntax search, it separates everything before the or and everything after the or into separate search terms.
So what it is searching for right now, with the way we just put it in, is something that is either an instant or a sorcery with the commander identity UR.
So that's why you'll notice that the instants can be any color, but the sorceries are only going to be blue or red.
Luckily, there's a really easy way to make this do what you probably wanted it to do when you were typing that, which is to use parentheses.
That's parentheses now.
Yes. Not quotations this time, parentheses. Oops. So if you wrap that instant or sorcery thing in parentheses and then do any of your other searches outside of that, you're going to be finding instants or sorceries that match all of your other search terms.
Yeah. This just splits the stuff inside the parentheses rather than splitting everything else that you want to add. So anytime you want to use an or and you want to add additional syntax to it, then you put all of that outside of the parentheses. Okay.
Another way to make it, like, let's say that you didn't particularly care about it being, an instant or sorcery, but you certainly didn't want it to be a creature spell.
Yeah.
Like we are looking for a non-creature spell. Instead of doing instant or sorcery, you could do minus type creature, and then it's not a creature.
Yeah. Anytime that you're looking for something, of course, you just put in the search syntax. But if you want something to not include something, you just add a minus before the search syntax. So minus type creatures will give you all of the non-creature things in Magic. If you wanted to search for, let's say, I need a creature, but I don't want it to be a human because it's a mutate deck. You can search type creature, and then you can minus type human, and that'll give you all of the non-human creatures in Magic, which is almost 12,000.
Yeah. I remember I was working on building a Volo deck once, and every time I added a card to it, I would minus that creature type from the thing to get all the different creature types in it. Got to a really, really long
I
little
was
list
going to
there.
say, that gets you to a crazy search syntax. I mean, all of this is very useful, and it's helpful when you combine it with other things. Like, let's say this is not a mutate deck. Like, what if it's a Winota deck? So you could search... we're looking for creatures that aren't humans that are inside the color identity red and white. And you want cheap ones. So we're going to add that next because you want, like in Winota, you want non-humans that are cheaper than Winota.
You want to get them out early and, be able to attack and do crazy stuff with them.
So the next thing we're going to add is mana value.
Yep.
And this one's easy. It's MV for mana value.
And this is, the converted mana cost. It used to be called the mana value, the pure, number worth.
Yes. If you are a boomer and you don't want to use mana value, you can also use CMC.
It also works.
CMC also works.
It's very exciting.
So this is when we start to add the equal sign that we talked about before, but also you can use less than or equal less than or greater than caret signs.
Yeah.
These ones. You remember those?
There's a word for them. It's like comparators or something like that. But,
yeah.
But you remember it's like the fish mouth?
Yeah, the alligator.
It's like, the alligator wants to eat the bigger item.
Why? And then he puts his butt toward the little one.
Yeah.
We're introducing alligators into syntax. So Winota is 4 mana value. So let's say you want creatures that are less than that. If you do mana value less than 4, this will give you all of the non-human creatures in red and white that are cheaper than Winota.
There's almost 2,000 of them. So, do whatever you want.
But, it's better than 12,000 or whatever it was a moment ago. So if you're like, all right, I have lots of 2-drops.
Yeah.
But I really do need more 1-drops in my deck. You could search for mana value equals to 1. And that's going to give you all of the 1-drop non-human creatures in red and white that you could put in your Winota deck. And you get some good ones right away, like Ragavan, Skrelv, Giver of Runes. These are all good cards that you could just throw into your Winota deck. And here they are in a perfect list for you.
Now, if you want, for instance, to... Let's say you don't care as much about them coming out before Winota, but you still want to keep your curve around being able to play if you'd be able to play Winota. So if you were only looking for things that were less than her, if less than 4, you're going to find 1, 2, and 3. But you can also do less than or equal to by just adding the little equal sign to it too. And, well, that's greater than or equal
Excuse
to.
me,
But the principle remains the same.
I got my alligator backwards.
Then this will find things that are equal to the value or less. Like, that could be useful for... I don't know, if you're building a deck that's trying to, cascade or something like that.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you have cards that will be hit off a particular cascade.
Yeah. Honestly, I rarely use the equal sign when I'm searching for mana value. I just pick the number that's higher.
I use it all the time, but I think that just speaks to a little part in my brain because I used to be a programmer. So.
Yeah, you're trying to get exactly
I'm like, less
exactly
than
right.
Equals.
No, if I need less than or equal to 4, I pick less than 5.
Yeah, which is fair.
Mana value is really helpful. That's one that I use a lot. But of course, the most complicated one is Oracle Text.
Oracle Tags is also the one I use by far the most.
For sure. So this is the text section of the advanced search one. This is where you're going to put those quotations in or the little tilde in for searching for card names. If you're searching for phrases, of course, you're using the quotes like we mentioned before. And this is easy. It's just O for Oracle or Oracle. So you search O : quote, draw a card, close quote.
There you go.
That'll search for every single card that says draw a card on it. If you...
This is the Josh Lee Kwai search.
I was going to say, we call this one the JLK. If you don't want to exclude cards that draw 2 cards, or that say draw X cards, then you could modify the search. You could search for O draw, O card. And this will search for every card that says both draw and card on them somewhere.
Yeah.
So now we've got the Brainstorm shows up, which says draw 3 cards. Anytime that you're searching in Oracle text, you can use O. This is, if you want to search for multiple words like that, you just put O again on the second search phrase.
It's worth noting that you do need to be kind of like careful about this. And, obviously the cards will come up and then you can read them. But like if you search O, draw, O, card, then you could find one that's like, whenever an opponent draws one or more cards, or,
Like Smothering Tithe.
Yeah, exactly. Something that doesn't actually draw you cards, but is referring to those words in various places in the whole thing. So that's when it becomes really useful to, start paying attention to how syntax is worded on Magic cards and stuff.
Yeah, it's the more specific that you can be with your Oracle search, the better. So if you don't want this to include like cantrips, for example, that only draw one card, you could just throw an S on the end and say, now I'm only looking for stuff that draws multiple cards at a time. So
yeah.
draw Oracle cards.
Yep.
These are very general searches, but the more specific you can be, the fewer cards you're looking through.
And again, this is just an example. I mean, like, the whole trick to it is that you're going to be adjusting this to whichever commander that you're building each individual time. And it can be really great when you're trying to find things like when the committing a crime thing came out.
Right, yeah.
There were lots of different ways that you could target different stuff. And so just being like, well, instance of sorcery as a target isn't going to help you. You wanted to find every card that says target thing and like look through and all that. And Oracle text really helps you find those things.
For sure. One more trick for people who already use Oracle searches pretty well. You can also search for cards that have like symbols on them. And each of these are going to have a different set of letters and symbols that represent them. So if you want to search for something with like a tap symbol on it, you could do Oracle : and then this squiggle bracket.
The squiggle bracket. What? I don't know what those are formally called.
The squiggle bracket,
Yeah.
that are on like music, a T, and then you close the squiggle bracket. That's going to give you everything that has tap in a cost in Magic. If you want to look for stuff that, like, let's say, I don't want lands in here, you say minus type land. And now we're getting all of the creatures and enchantments and artifacts that have tap in their Oracle text somewhere.
Yeah, and there's a couple other things for like, colorless symbols, color symbols and stuff. And they're all kind of covered in the syntax section in the thing there if you want to go in and actually like read what those are.
If there's a symbol that you're looking for, you're going to be able to search for it in Scryfall. So, and you can Google it or find it on their syntax page, which is extensive.
Yeah. So this next one we wanted to go over is kind of like a special case, which is really useful. So if we were looking, let's say we were like trying to find cards with flying for our deck. Like we're looking for red-white cards with flying.
Easy, Jordan. I search Oracle, flying, CI, red-white.
That would probably get you most of the cards that have flying. But here's a great example right at the top. Akroma's Will doesn't have flying.
That's an instant.
Ridiculous. It's just a card that mentions the word flying on it. So it would also find things like destroy target creature with flying or anything like that. But if you actually just want to find cards that have flying on it, you can do keyword or KW flying. Bam.
There it
Actual
is.
flyers.
So this will give you
is the real deal.
This will give you a search of all of the creatures that have flying that fit in the color identity of Boros. So this is basically a fancy Oracle search, but it does make things a lot simpler.
Yeah, it's great.
Anytime I search for keywords, I always get Audric. And you're like, get out of here.
You're like, come on, Andre.
You don't have anything.
You don't have any of these things. This is one of those little tips that I learned in the process of us putting this together, because the Scryfall people sent us, this was one of the things in the email, and I was like, oh.
Infinite possibilities on this website. And this is my favorite syntax to use, is the criteria dropdown that we were talking about before. You can search for any of those criterias using the is : search word term.
The is search is amazing. There are lots and lots of things. Like, if you can imagine it, it's probably a criteria search. That being said, you should probably look up if it's a criteria search if you're going to use it.
Sometimes I guess, and if it doesn't come back with one, I'm like, all right.
I do all the time because every now and then I'll be like, well, is this thing? And it'll happen. I'll be like, of course it happens.
Of course, they're so smart.
Scryfall's got my back.
Is Commander, I think, is one of the most useful searches. So is :Commander searches for all the things that could possibly be in your command zone. So this is a little bit more extensive than just type legendary, type creature, because it'll also include planeswalkers that can be your commander. It'll include Shurikai.
Anything that has the text on it that's like, this can be your commander. It'll find backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. So it's just a better way to find things that you could put in the command zone. Another one that's really nice is Historic. If you're building a historic deck, they've used this as a theme a lot. This will give you all of the artifacts, sagas, and legendary permanents that will trigger all your historic stuff.
Generally, if they're doing the batching thing that they've started doing more, like Outlaw and stuff, will be what you can find that'll just find it. I think Party will work and just finds you all the cards that have one of the party types on it.
Yeah.
So that's super useful if you're trying to find something that specific.
We showed you how to search for instant or sorcery earlier. I think the easier way to find them is to search -is permanent.
Bam!
Now we're excluding
Look at all those
permanents.
things.
So it gives you all of the instants and sorceries. This is functionally the same search as type instant or type sorcery.
Yep.
-is works. You can also search not permanent. We'll give you the exact same search.
A lot of these things are pretty much just, your preference for how you want to type it in. I think to some people, not is going to make more logical sense than -is. Mm-hmm. So that's an option that you've got right there.
Let's do a couple of examples of cool criteria that we use.
So we built a... there was an Elish Norn Mother of Machines deck for Game Nights a little while back, and she doubles up ETB permanents. So if you do is ETB ID W, you can find a lot of things that ETB and do stuff.
No, this will give you everything that there's some as enters the battlefield things, or some things that trigger when other stuff enters the battlefield. But basically anything that cares about as or when it enters the battlefield will come up under this search. And it's a really robust search that you're like, all right, not all of these are super relevant, but Felidar Retreat's a great one. Field of the Dead is very powerful.
Oh, yeah. A lot of these are really going to go off pretty quick. But it just shows how much with just those two terms, you're already just getting a huge amount of things that you could add to this Elish Norn deck.
Another one that got printed recently was Riku of Many Paths. He cares about modal spells. And so he is Teamer, so he's Rug, and he was looking for cards that are modal. You can type in is::modal. This will give you all of the spells that give you options.
Ridiculously useful. I don't know how I would be searching this if I had to just find the Oracle text to put in.
And it doesn't search for exactly what Riku is looking for, because it gives you stuff like Coma, but you're like, Coma is modal.
It errs on the side of being broader.
So what I would probably do if I was building this is I would do -is permanent.
There you go.
And now you're searching for all of the spells that feel a little bit more modal and are going to trigger your commander.
Notice how all these pieces are meshing together in a perfect little Scryfall puzzle. It's great.
One more that I think is fun. So Jasmine Boreal of the Seven, she cares about vanilla creatures. And I love this because how are you supposed to search for something that has nothing?
Yeah, you go minus this, minus this.
Minus all words. First, you put in her color identity, which is green and white. Then you can type in is vanilla. And that'll search for all of the creatures that don't have any rules text.
There you go.
One more that I use a lot is you can search by cards that are specifically Universes Beyond, or more likely you can search by cards that aren't Universes Beyond.
Yeah, I know sometimes I'll be building a deck and I'm just like, look, I want this to all be Magic cards.
Right.
Not that Universes Beyond cards aren't Magic cards, but I just don't want Doctor Who in this deck.
You can
For flavor reasons.
So you can search is:UB will give you cards that are Universes Beyond cards if you're building a deck around any Universe Beyond.
Yep.
Chaos reigns. Or you could put in not :UB or -is:UB, and that will give you all of the stuff that isn't a Universes Beyond card.
Yep, and that's a great way to filter that stuff out. Or add it in. I built the Karn the Betrayer deck, and I wanted to have more 40K cards in it.
So those you can, if you're looking for a specific one, you can, of course, search by set. But if you're looking for stuff that's just generally beyond the Magic universe, that's a helpful one.
Well,
All right, we've teased it. Its power. I think it's time.
This is what it was all building up to. Once you can do this, the world is your oyster.
This was a huge leveling up moment for me as a deck builder, and it's learning to use Scryfall tags. We've teased it. It's time. Not every commander has like a clean is term like with the ones we mentioned, like Riku or Jasmine. Sometimes you're trying to search for stuff in a vague strategy.
Yeah, it'll be something like
Cast from Exile stuff.
Yeah, toughness matters.
Yeah,
you know?
and you're like, I don't know how to search for all the things. I could search Oracle Toughness, but that's going to get you all of the cards that just have like a changeable
toughness, or gives them yeah.
So it's just not. Oracle text can get very complicated. So when you learn how to use Scryfall tags, you can actually search for some of these strategies based on the tags that have been applied to them in the Scryfall system.
Often by people who just like work hard to go in and tag stuff. So it can do a lot of things that are more like abstract ideas that we as players understand, but that are harder to quantify.
Yeah,
so
like before for Felix, we were searching for cards that trigger on deals combat damage.
Yep.
But that search will exclude all cards that say deal combat damage, for example.
So it's like if more than one or if one or more creatures deal combat damage, suddenly it didn't pick that up.
And I really want to find there has to be a tag built around that kind of thing. Or maybe there isn't, but it's possible that there's a tag built around that kind of thing. And the easiest way to find tags, in my experience, especially relevant tags, is by going to a card that you already know is powerful in the strategy that you just want to find more of.
Yeah, and so like if you do the deals combat damage search, you're probably going to find at least one that you're like, great, this is the sort of thing I'm looking for.
A really powerful card in this strategy is Kodama of the West Tree. Mm-hmm. And this would have shown up in our original search. It's deals combat damage to a player is in the actual text. But if we want to find more cards like this that may not have that exact phrasing on them, you can go down to the bottom and click on this Open Scryfall Tagger button. This will give us a page that has all of the tags that Scryfall has applied to Kodama. Gives Trample, Saboteur, Tutor Land Basic, Ramp, Synergy Modified, Tutor Land to Battlefield. It even gives you much more broad things like Counters Matter, Synergy Aura, Synergy Equipment. There's tons of tags that are all attached to this card. And some of them are really relevant for what we're looking for right now.
Like I noticed that there's a tag there that calls Saboteur. I wonder what that does.
Well, if you click on the Saboteur tag, it's going to take you to the page that defines the tag for you. And it says, effects that trigger when you deal combat damage to an opponent, Scryfall, you dog. That's
perfect.
Exactly what we wanted.
It's done all the work for us. Oh, Scryfall.
So this will take us to that tag page. But I usually hit this button, which will pop it back out to Scryfall so we can modify the search syntax a little bit easier. So now we've got an O tag attached to it, Saboteur. We can add in Bug and limit it to just cards in our color identity. and we could sort it by EDH rec rank, and it'll give us cards that are most commonly played in these strategies.
And look at that. There's Toski and Bident of Thassa. These are some great cards.
And some of these would have come up in our search before. Toski and Bident of Thassa would have popped up in the deals combat damage oracle search, but Grim Hireling, which says whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage,
We would have just missed it.
and that's so powerful
That's
in this
huge.
strategy. So you're like, all right, now I have a more complete view of cards that trigger on combat damage. Plus, we learned a cool new term, Saboteur, which I had never heard before.
I now use it all the time.
All the time.
Mostly because
because it was a tag
we were doing
in Scryfall.
Yeah, and we also recently did a budget upgrade for Gonti, which used Saboteurs. But super useful.
So you'll notice that in this search function, it added O-tag, : and then the tag Saboteur. You can either use O-tag or you can use function : As far as I can tell, they function similarly.
I think that they're exactly the same. I guess I shouldn't say that 100%, but I always just use function.
I typically use function. It's just the one that comes more naturally to me. So if I was searching for this and I already knew the tag Saboteur, I would search function : Saboteur, color identity, bug.
And the thing is, there are tons and tons of tags out there. Like, I guess at function tags all the time. Like, I mean, one of the simplest ones is, I'll be looking for function board wipe in my colors. And, I mean, that's actually a terrible example because I kind of know most of the board wipes, but it will work. You can go to board wipe and it'll give you anything that like is destroying all of things on the battlefield.
So in this
Finding
case,
some great examples.
The tag is board-wipe. So you can search function : board-wipe.
Another really good one is that you can just do like card advantage, like function card advantage. And that won't just find things that are card draw. It'll find things that, let you do impulse draw or leave you up cards in various ways. It can be really broad and really useful and a great way to just like find something that is trying to fill a specific need in your deck in whatever category you're trying to set it up in.
And genuinely, you do not have to memorize any of these tags. If there's one that you're using a lot, then you can commit it to memory. But most of the time, I think you're just going to find them by going to cards that you know are good in the strategy. For like Passionate Archaeologist, for example, is really good in Cast from Exile strategies. Again, you go to the Open Scryfall Tagger page, and here we go. We've got Burn Player, Mana Value Matters, Synergy Commander, Synergy Exile Cast, or Synergy Exile. Those are both great tags for me to search if I'm building a deck that cares about any time I cast something from Exile, or any time I cast something from other than my hand.
A lot of time, the easiest and simplest first thing to do is actually search your commander up, go into their Scryfall tags,
There you go.
and see what relevant things are there. Because it's going to find stuff that will lead you to other cards which are going to fit its strategy. It's very useful.
And Scryfall, I want to mention that these tags are not necessarily perfect.
Yeah.
They are tagged by the community. These are tagged by humans. I believe most of them are tagged by Scryfall patrons or employees.
Yeah, I think there's the tagging project that you can like sign up for and be part of and participate in and stuff.
But crowdsourcing that kind of stuff means that you get so many more brains on it, and you're going to see so many things. And a lot of the time, I'll find a card on a tag that I'm like, oh, I didn't think to do that search. And I'll steal the exact Oracle text from it and put that back in my search bar and search Oracle : whatever that text is and close the quotes.
The tags are shockingly good too. Like
They're really very effective.
So many options. And to show you that not all of them are based on just hard mechanics for you people out there who are just building the best decks.
You'll notice when we search for like a Felix 5 boots, for example, when you look at Felix's tags, you're going to get some ones at the top here. They're artwork tags. It says cowboy hat, multiple arms, Thunder Junction, lots of legs, ooze, clothing hat, plain. All of these are art tags that have been tagged by the community that looked at Felix and was like, he's wearing a hat, hit him with the art tag hat.
Yep.
So if you search for an art : you can search by different art keywords in Scryfall. So if you want to search for art that is underwater, you can search art : underwater.
Look at that. Look at all these fish and tortoises, and everything in this is underwater. If you're building,
so cool.
If you're building your ladies looking left deck or oops all hats,
this is how you can find even more of them, or just check and be like, did I miss any big ones? Like I have a 5-color pony deck. And I have used these art tags many times. I've searched art horse or art unicorn or art Pegasus or art pony. Yes, these are all different. And you can search for them and it gives you every single card that has like tiny horses in the background.
That's what I love most about it too, is sometimes you'll be like, there's no horse in this. And then you'll be like,
there it is.
Wait a minute. Look at that itty bitty little horse.
And it just gives you can take this search and you can search sorted by EDH rec rank. And you're like, oh, I didn't even think that this new Path to Exile art has a horse in it. I could probably put it into my horse deck.
And it will find it just like it will look through all the different arts of the things.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you'll be shocked how often you'll be like, wait, I've seen that card. I just haven't seen that printing of it.
Right. I love the art tagger for stuff like that. If you're trying to build any kind of thematic deck, I love to check cards that are like part of that theme and see if you can just see all the stuff with art in them. Like if you were building the 2-color Galadriel of Lothlorien, for example, and you wanted all of the cards that had Galadriel in them, then you could search art : Galadriel, and that's going to give you all of the Lord of the Rings cards that were printed that had Galadriel on them, or like one of her things.
Yeah.
Like her ring or whatever.
And now, if you also wanted to expand it besides just the art, this is a cool one I like to use because I get really into like the lore of characters and stuff. You can do lore and then the name of something, and this will find cards where they are mentioned in the flavor text. It will find ones where they are, named after it and stuff. So like this one is finding all these ones with Galadriel quoted down in it, or like the file of Galadriel, which has her name in it. Things like that.
Sometimes, you wouldn't know that she has a quote on the Gift of Strands.
Yeah.
Or you wouldn't know that this is actually her on the Elvish Visionary. You're like, now I can include it in my Galadriel-themed deck. You can do this with non-Universes Beyond characters. If you're a Chandra fan, you can search Lore Chandra, and that'll give you all of the cards that have Chandra on the text somewhere. So either in the name of the card or the flavor text.
I do this a lot when I'm trying to like write ads for certain things.
Sure.
Like if we're doing a Norn the Wary or something, I'll be like, there's got to be some Norn quotes
There
out
has
there.
to be.
And there almost always are.
All right. That's everything we're going to add.
Yep.
And that's a lot. We've covered a number of different ways to use Scryfall, and a lot of them are sort of, seasoned to taste.
Yeah.
We do want to do a couple final exercises just to tie the room together and show you what happened, like how we use it in building. So let's say we're building a Voya deck.
Jaws of the Conclave.
And we...
Popular new commander.
Yeah, you probably never heard of him.
Yeah, obscure. I know, I just said popular, but then I liked your joke better, so. Scott Ward.
So the first thing we're going to do is add the commander identity. So ID : red, green, white, or ID Naya, if you'd prefer.
I do prefer. Thank you for changing it to Naya.
We're searching for either wolves or elves. So you could do type wolf or type elf.
In parentheses.
We put those parentheses around the two types because we're looking for either wolves or elves that meet all of the other qualifications that we're putting into this bar. Let's say, again, we're looking for creatures that are less than Voya's cost, because we want them to come down before we cast our commander.
And we probably just want to keep our
them.
curve low,
Yeah.
We're trying to win.
So I'm searching for MV less than 5. Everything with mana value less than 5. And because we are familiar with some tags that work in counter strategies, you could also do O tag or function : counters - matter. And that'll give you all the cards that have been tagged with counters matter. This is a great search. This gives us 13 elves or wolves that care about +1/+1 counters in some way. And a lot of these, like Shalai and Halar, probably already show up on the search page for Voya. But if we're looking for some that are a little less popular, or if you find one that you're like, oh, I want to build around this strategy a little bit more, then this kind of search is...
It's going to get you there.
It's going to get you further than just looking at the EDH rec page and giving it exactly what they gives you back.
Well, it's worth saying, like, this is a very specific one, and it's found all these particular cards there. And Voya is a commander that has been built a lot. So people have all discovered all these things. But especially early on, like, I find cards that fit in my decks that I had, like, never seen and didn't even think about all the time by, like, going down these little, like, deep dive.
Absolutely. And sometimes you'll just think of a search that you're like, oh, I should have searched. I don't think I ever looked for that.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do one more example. Voya's a very straightforward build. You know exactly what you're looking for. So most of the time, all of those cards are going to show up on the EDH rec page. But if you're building a commander in a slightly more unique way, or if you have a very clear vision for what you want the deck to do, that isn't necessarily how everybody else is building it, then Scryfall is going to be a much better tool than EDH rec for deck building.
So the example that we're going to use here is I built a Jolatoyak the Smiling Flood deck, which basically just wants to clone as many Jolatoyaks as it can to get the untap trigger over and over and over again at the end of the turn, and just do a ton of crazy untaps on the end. So one thing that was really important to me in building it was having stuff that could come down and immediately have counters on itself, things that would stay on the board, and that had tap functions that I could take advantage of using over and over again. So
this is a slightly trickier search, but it's going to start similarly. So we're going to search for ID Simic.
Yep.
Because that's Jolatoyak's color identity. Then we're going to search for is permanent.
Yeah, because I want to be able to use these every turn. Got to put counters on it and stuff.
We're going to use that Oracle search that we had before with Oracle tap sign.
Yep.
Again, squiggle T, squiggle again.
Okay, so the way I did this, and there's a couple ways to do this, but this is just sort of a hint of something that's like a slightly more advanced thing, is you can use regular expressions in it. This can be really complicated, but the simplest version of it is just instead of using quotations, you use slashes.
Yep. So in this case, you do slash. So this is specifically to add a search for stuff in the Oracle text that puts counters on itself, is what we're looking for with this expression.
Yeah.
So first O://.
And then I just want to do put, and this is a fun little trick you can do in these regular expressions. If you do period asterisk, then it basically just means any
yada,
number,
yada, yada.
any number of things in between that. Then counter period asterisk on space tilde. So you want to put it on itself. So that'll find something that says, you know, put 5 void counters on your guy.
This card, yeah.
Put up to blah, blah, blah. And they need to say it in that order, but it doesn't necessarily matter what comes between it. And as you can see, the things that come up here are all like immediately really good little additions to the deck.
I feel like this is how this search could come to be, right? Is you find the One Ring, you're like, that's incredible in this deck.
Yep.
How do I find more things that have this ability, that put counters on themselves so you don't have to figure out how to put counters on them, and that have a tap ability so it's even more powerful with the untap effect? And now you get tons of those. Midnight Clock is a great example.
Is an absolute bomb in the deck.
Marwyn the Nurturer puts counters on herself when other elves enter the battlefield. In a big mana deck like yours, you might have a couple of elves in it. Replicating Ring or mana dorks that put counters on them.
Look at Devoted Druid. This is an amazing example of one because once you've done the -1/-1 thing to untap her once, suddenly she'll do all the untaps every time it goes on, and that's such an easy one to activate. You can also, find things like this and then add little extras. Like, I think one that'd be interesting to add that I searched for because mine makes so much mana that it needs to use at instant speed. So a big part for me was function mana sync.
So for this one, we probably get rid of...
But even in this one, you can probably find a couple examples.
Function mana -sync.
Yep. And I mean, this is just like a couple little examples in here. But if you look at like crawling barrens, like this is something if you are making a ton of mana at the end of the turn, you can just be storing it all into power on the crawling barrens, which can turn into a creature and try and win the game for you later.
And it's a land that puts counters on itself. There's a lot of synergy going on here that wouldn't necessarily show up on the EDH rec page because people aren't necessarily trying to untap their stuff as much as you are.
Yeah.
If you want to do a simpler version of this search using stuff that we've only talked about today, you can get rid of all of the other stuff and add multiple Oracle functions. So you still have ID:simic, is:permanent, Oracle: tap, and then you could just search put, Oracle: put, Oracle: counter, Oracle:
on
quotes on tilde to represent the card name and close the quotes. And that'll give you a very similar search.
In this case, it gets almost exactly the same search.
Yeah, this was a very specific type of search. But in the case that the order of words matters, you can do a more complicated search to really limit it down to cards that are just relevant to you. Scryfall is so powerful for deck building. Like the fact that we took the thousands and thousands and thousands of cards and we narrowed it down to 120 cards that you can scroll through that are great for exactly what you're looking for is, I mean, it's the ultimate tool for any deck builder who wants to build more creatively or build decks that are not just the average deck that you would find on EDH rec.
Yeah, and especially like, if you're building like an obscure... I mean, these days, it used to be that there were so few legendary creatures that all of them have been built a good amount. But now with partners and backgrounds, you might be doing a combination. There's only 20, 30 decks that people have built for the whole thing and trying to find some things that are very specific. And Scryfall is like a treasure hunt sometimes. Like you will be going through and you'll find cards and you'll go, oh my God, this is absolutely perfect for what I'm trying to do and terrible in every other deck.
Yeah.
And that's like the best feeling.
I would say if you're a new deck builder, then EDH rec is an incredible tool to get you started on what a deck could contain. So if you're building Felix Five Boots, for example, you go and you see how other people are building him and you can see what kind of cards are showing up repeatedly. And then if you want to find some that are more unique to your deck, or if you have a narrower strategy, like a Felix Five Boots equipment deck, for example, you can go to Scryfall and you can narrow that search to exactly what cards you're looking for your 99.
And it's great when you're getting started, and it just gets better and better and more useful as you get more experienced with deck building with the cards. And there's never a stage where Scryfall is not extremely helpful.
Yeah. We talked about a lot of stuff today, and I'm hoping that all of it is helpful and you can come back to this as a reference. I don't want you to feel pressure to have learned all of this today and to be putting it into practice today. All of this is just to show you the capabilities of the program and to get you started learning, because Scryfall actually makes it very easy to teach yourself how to use it and figure out what ways work best for you. We already showed you so many different ways that like you could search this way or you could search that way, and none of those ways are wrong. So the more that you teach yourself, the more comfortable you are using the program in a way that you want to use it.
It's also worth noting, and I know we've played this ad like 100 times for our sponsor, ARCHIDEKT, but I know when I'm building things, I will just make an ARCHIDEKT list, start searching for things in Scryfall, and then literally just click and drag the cards from Scryfall into the list.
All the time.
That's how I build decks now.
Yeah, it's awesome. Once I figured out that you could do that, it's 2 windows up all the time. And it's really sweet. You can find some really cool stuff, and it makes your deck look very custom to you. if you want to learn more about Scryfall, if you're like, you guys only covered, some basics here today, you can become a Scryfall supporter. It's honestly huge. You should. I use Scryfall all the time for my work, and being able to give them something back to make their website better, to reward them for their hard work, for this incredible website and tool for deck builders is so important. But also they have communities
They have a Discord.
they have a Discord. They have, you can join their Tagger project. I believe it is still going on. You can join their Discord to ask questions about how to best search or how to suggest new features. They're always growing and customizing and adding different things. You can also just learn the sort of weirder ins and outs of using syntax. There you can search for like there was a when I was searching for the toughness guy.
Yeah, the Pride of Hullclade.
I did a search that was mana value less than toughness. Because I wanted stuff that had a higher toughness than I was paying for it. And you're like, that's a weird thing that it is able to do for me. So there's a lot that Scryfall can do, and the more you learn about it, the more you can be a better deck builder. So go support Scryfall. We are huge fans of them over here, and you can learn all about it by becoming a supporter. Do make an account, though. Actually, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's super great.
To the listeners, do you have any special search functions that you like on Scryfall? Would you be interested in an even deeper dive into Scryfall? This was kind of just the basics. There's more stuff that you can do all the time. It is possible we could put together another Scryfall episode if people are into this. Audio only people, I really hope that you followed along. We did our best to make sure that we said everything that we were doing on the computer.
Yeah,
but
go sit down at your computer later and try some of this out for yourself.
Get on Scryfall, try it out. It is worth the time. If you're using Scryfall and you find some sweet new cards like we talked about today, go to cardkingdom.com/command. Pick up all of those cards in one place. Card Kingdom has the professionalism and the huge selection to get you a ton of cards in one package shipped to you safely, so you can be confident that your paper shows up safely in the mail. I remember I ordered a Card Kingdom package and it showed up soaking wet because the Los Angeles mailman just left it in the rain.
They just don't know what to do with rain in Los Angeles.
They did not. Just throw it in a puddle. It'll be fine. And I opened it and all of my cards were safe because it was sealed well, and
it probably came with a cute little token,
with a cute little token.
How nice.
Plus, you can support the show while you're shopping. If this episode helped you find some cool new cards, you can support us by buying those cards on cardkingdom.com/command. And once you have those cards in your hand, you're going to need to protect them. Go to ultrapro.com/command to pick up some of the highest quality Magic accessories in the business. Binders, sleeves, deck boxes, wall scrolls, dice, card sorters, plushies. If you're a gamer, yeah, they do. They've got like little plastic guys, and they've got like dice bags. There's a lot of really cute, fun stuff on the Ultra Pro website.
Wowee.
If you are really into like a secret lair, sometimes they'll do drops that coincide with secret lair art that go really, really fast. So paying attention to the Ultra Pro website does pay dividends when you want a cutie patootie on your playmat. Support the show and support your Magic cards. Keep them safe and organized and beautiful over at ultrapro.com/command. Before we go, I want to mention once again, just for everybody who didn't hear us in the last episode, I want to shout out Commander's Herald's new game, Spellify.
Which I know we've been playing
at the office.
Frequently around the office, yeah.
It's so funny because I can always figure, it's for those who haven't played, it's on the Commander's Herald website. It's basically Hangman with a Magic card. So it's a Magic with blanks in all of the numbers. The only thing you get is, I believe, the types and the colors, but not the creature types. And you guess based on those things. You guess letters, and as you go, you can eventually guess the card. And like I said, you just always have the whole text box, and I can't think of the name of the card.
Well, now we've taught you a great way to cheat. At
the
Spellify.
And you're like, blue artifact creature.
You're like, oh, yeah, just give me a moment. I'm answering a text real quick. You know what?
Got
I
it, 0
think
guesses.
it's Urza, High Lord Artificer.
It was Cyberdrive Awakener the other day, and I was like, it's the 6-mana 4/4 flying that gives you all the non-creatures and 4/4 flying. That one. The artifact creature. Like, I could tell you every word in the text box. Couldn't tell you the name. But it's a ton of fun. Go play it. Support them. They're doing cool new stuff for gamers.
It's great. It's funny because, Jamie and I, the other writer, used to just like do games like that between the two of us. And we called it the Scryfall game. Because we would just do searches on Scryfall and they'd be like, okay, here's the information you get.
It's a brewer's playground. Scryfall.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun. Before we go, big thank you to our amazing team here at the Command Zone, to Damon Lentz, Eric Lem, Megan Yip, Gaurav Galati, Jamie Block, Arthur Meadowcroft, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Sam Waldo, Evan Liberger, Katie Cole, Mitch Trafford, Josh Lee Kwai, Jimmy Wong, and of course to Jordan Pridgen for taking the time to talk about Scryfall with me.
I love talking about Scryfall, so I was very excited to get to do this episode.
It's the best. I really hope that if you haven't used it, you try it out, and if you do use it, you know how to use it a little bit better this time.
Yeah.
See you next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.